Well, hello, 大家好. I'm Steven, 我是Steven, and today is Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, and this is my language channel in which I sort of keep track of some of the things that I do. Studying my own languages, my current focus is Mandarin Chinese, and I also post some tips on language learners for all you guys and girls out there. English language, of course, is one of my specialties here. I help teach, I guess. I do teach sometimes. And so today's video, though, however, is about my recent HSK 5 test, which I took on Saturday, just this past Saturday. And I'm not going to lie, I'll be straight up and say I probably failed it. I'm not going to lie. And the reason why I say that right off the bat is because leading up to the test itself, I was doing quite a few mock tests, and a lot of them I was not doing very well. I was getting very low marks in the 40s sort of thing. And even during some of the preparation materials that I was going through, I was having a hard time. I was struggling quite a bit in understanding a lot of what was going on. But I'm not upset by doing the test. And the reason why is because I figure what I would do is that I would take the test. It would sort of kick me out of my complacency. So I was getting a little bit sort of bored, a little bit I wasn't so much confident. I was confident in my Chinese abilities until I took the test, but I wasn't pushing myself as much as I used to, specifically not as much as I used to prior to my HSK 3 and 4 tests. Now, a lot of people will say that those tests don't really mean much, and they're probably right. HSK 5 gets to a level where things start to matter a little bit more in terms of your results, your preparations, and then also your abilities in the language itself. And the reason I say that is because at HSK 5, you're getting into the level where you are able to actually function in the language quite a bit. You can probably read books, you can watch some TV shows. You could start reading a newspaper, although I'm not sure. That's what they say you can do, but I don't think you can. Reading easy books, and by easy books, it doesn't have to be comic books. It doesn't have to be children's books. I don't read children's books. But there can be some types of materials that when you do read it, it's a lot easier to understand what's going on rather than some other tougher materials. You wouldn't be reading a Chinese history book written in Mandarin Chinese, but you could be reading something else, a concise version of Chinese history or something along that. Chinese history has something along those lines. So with this, I was thinking the test score, whatever I get, at least that gives me a gauge of where I am right now. Whether I need to work, another 30 hours or another 60 hours or another 90 or more hours, who knows? And keep in mind, with every sort of, like, if it's 30 hours, then can I do 1 hour a day for the next month? If it's 60, can I do 2 hours for the next month? 90, so on, right? And that's maybe not just for the next month, but maybe it's for the next 2 or 3 months. And then going forward, what will I be able to accomplish and what should I be able to work on in that time? And so one of the things that I know I'm going to have to work on is the reading section. I realized that when I was taking the HSK 5 test this past weekend, my reading just it wasn't fast enough, and it wasn't clear enough. I just simply was not able. I'm not reading it at HSK 5 level just yet, as much as I'd like to think I am, and as much as I am able to read some things in so-called native or natural Chinese. There's a lot that the HSK 5 material is a lot denser, a lot more focused, and sometimes the answers aren't always easy to see within the text. They're there somewhere, and certainly if you understand the vast majority of the text, you can figure it out. But that was the problem, was that I was not understanding the vast majority of the text that was given to me. So speed reading is going to be something. Speed reading at the HSK 5 textbook level is what I'm going to have to work on. Going back to the scores for just a minute here, one thing I read on another blog post was that typically you can gauge how much you need to work by whatever your score is. If you want to increase it, you need to study about 2 to 3 hours per grade point. So for example, if I somehow pass 180 out of 300, that's a pass. It's 60% on the HSK 5 test. If I wanted to get 210, which would get me into most universities, not that I'm planning on going to university, I would need 30 more points, so times 2 to 3. So it's 60 to 90 hours of study to go from a 180 up to a 210. Now, if my score is far less, and I am actually assuming that my score is going to be far less than that, probably an embarrassingly low score, I might need 2 or 3 months of 2 or 3 hours per day, meaning that even if I do 3 hours for the next month, 90 hours, that could be 30 points. I might do that for the next 2 or 3 months and then sign up for the October or the November test. And yes, I already have it in mind that I will be taking the test once again sometime later in this year. And I will continue with the paper test. For those of you who are not aware of how the HSK5 or how the HSK tests work, there are actually two versions. One version is the computer-based version, which is sort of the simpler one. That's where everything is on a computer. You sit down, you put your headphones on, you listen to the first part, the second part, it's all on computer, you read through it, and then the third part for HSK 3 and 4, I think you have to type in some things, but you can use pinyin. You just use a regular keyboard to type it in, which gives you the pinyin input. It's a lot easier, and it sort of autofills some things for you. So HSK 3 and 4 all enable you to do that. HSK 5 you can as well. However, there's another version, the paper-based version, which is what I'm doing. Now, prior to taking the HSK 5 test, and even to the HSK 4 test last year, I was intimidated by the idea of having to write Chinese characters. Now, it's actually not as bad as you might think, because there are two parts to the writing section. One is that you have to rearrange the sentences, and this happens in both HSK 4 and HSK 5 levels. So they give you a bunch of sentences that are in the wrong order, and you have to rearrange them into the right order. This tests your grammar abilities. So for the paper test, it might seem daunting to copy out those Hanzi, those Chinese characters, but really, I don't think it was actually that bad. That part's the easy part. The harder part will be the last part of the second part. So first part, rearrange the sentences. Second part, they give you 5 characters or 5 words, and then you have to write 80 characters about it, original creations. Sorry, there's actually a third part where they give you a picture. So there's 3 parts total to the HSK 5 written component. 1, rearrange sentences. Number 2, 5 words that you have to make an 80-word paragraph about. And then the last part is a picture that they give you that you have to describe within 80 characters or more, thereabouts. And I was pleasantly surprised at how much garbage I was able to actually regurgitate for the writing section. I don't know how well I did, but I was feeling very confident in my ability to produce not only the correct characters, but usually the correct words. And this might seem like a very funny thing to say, but when there are so many, coming to Chinese as a second language for myself, being able to remember not only what the word is, but then how to write that word, it's a mission accomplished. I mean, it's a great accomplishment, is it not? And to be able to do it by hand. In the test, there was only 4 people who were doing the written component. Me, I'm not sure where she was from. There was another guy. There was another girl beside me, but I think she had some Chinese lineage because she spent more time doodling and erasing those doodles, either from the test booklet or from the desk. I'm not sure, but she seemed to have like the test pre-filled. It was almost shockingly very good. I was impressed because I was sitting there watching the clock every time going, oh my goodness, how many more words do I have to read per second to complete this section? Right? And so with that, with the writing component, I wasn't disabled as much as I thought I would be by not remembering a word or something like that. There were a few, 休息, to rest. I couldn't remember that word. What was it? Dianao was the other one. I had trouble. I got Dian, of course, but Dianao, I like Naozi, Dianao. I could not get that one. Completely forgot. And there was probably another one. Oh, well, there was Gubo, which I couldn't remember either, but that's because the picture showed a woman with a sore wrist and she had a keyboard in front of her, so she was at work, and obviously she was suffering from a massive amount of carpal tunnel syndrome or something, and she had a sore wrist. The 5 words that they gave me to write, let me see if I can, I said it this weekend, but it was Jianshen, yeah, there's 2 that I didn't know, and I'm blanking right now. I did write them down, though, after the test because I could remember what the characters were. I just couldn't remember. I didn't know what they meant, basically. So going forward, with this, what am I going to work on? I'm going to, of course, focus a lot more on vocabulary and going through my flashcards that I have. These ones, these were given to me by a guy who left China just recently, and so that's going to be one component. Number 2, I'm of course going to continue on with the mock tests. I'm going to have to do those as well because I have to get my reading, my speed reading up to snuff. It has to be at that HSK 5 textbook level, which is a lot different than reading a book or a newspaper. So if you're thinking about taking the HSK 5 test, keep that in mind, that just because you can read a book, any type of book, doesn't mean that you might be able to read the very dense and densely packed and focused HSK 5 paragraphs, because they're more like academic texts than anything else. I'm not saying that you can't, but it's something to be aware of to make sure that you practice those HSK 5 texts that they give you in those mock tests, or else you might be surprised at how dense they can actually be. Other than that, grammar focused on the first part of the writing section. So the scrambled sentences, I want to be able to get through that section very quickly. Although that one can be challenging with the ba sentences, the bei sentences, multiple object sentences and things like that. There's 12 basic sentences that they give you that they can choose from in terms of Chinese grammar structures at the HSK 5 level. But that one I'd like to breeze through a little faster next time as well. And then also the creative writing, I don't think was, I don't know how I did, to tell you the truth, in terms of character creation, word appropriateness, and grammar. I mean, I know I was able to write a lot with Chinese characters, mostly correct, I think, but whether or not that made at all any sense to anybody, very good question. So that's another thing I will have to work on, is simply making sure that I have some formulaic language or some standard sentences that I can take, put into the writing section while describing the picture that they give me, or using the 5 words that they have given to me in those that second part and the third part of the writing section. All right, folks, hope that helped. And by all means, if you have any comments or questions, leave them below, and I will be happy to help you as much as I can, as I will continue 坚持支持我的中文学习, my Chinese studies. All right, folks, thanks a lot for watching. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.